So I'm David. I'm a company director in the IT sector. I've sort of been looking into meditation for a few months now. Before I came to classes with Mark, I read a few books around mindfulness. Kind of done a bit of stuff online, and I was really looking for kind of some real world help that would give me some kind of practical advice on if I was doing it right and what the benefits are and that kind of thing. Basically, I'd read online about the benefits of kind of stilling the mind and having some time away from. I live quite a hectic lifestyle. I have to make a lot of decisions. Have quite a fast-paced lifestyle, and I was looking for something to kind of give me some downtime. So I'd read about mindfulness and becoming more present and becoming more aware. I didn't really know what a lot of these concepts meant initially, but I knew I kind of had to bring my stress levels down somehow. So that's kind of what led me to coming to your classes. I think initially the first thing to say is that I had no preconceived ideas because I'd never been to a meditation class. Never had anybody to sort of teach me these sort of things. But I was really pleasantly surprised by the teaching style that I experienced. A very warm, welcoming, friendly atmosphere. And what I was given was very practical advice, as well as a clear understanding of what I was doing, why I was doing it. And I felt like I was being given the best advice from somebody who's kind of been there and done it. So before I approached Mark, I was listening to some things on YouTube, things on iTunes that are readily available now. These kind of generic sort of self-help, self-hypnosis, meditation guides. They're okay, but they're very generic, and you don't really know what you're going to be listening to. I think one thing that I have learned is the subconscious is very receptive to a lot of messages, and you're downloading these free tapes. You don't really know what you're kind of letting in, if anything of quality at all. What I experienced with Mark was something completely different. I wasn't just going to be kind of fed information. I was actually going to learn a skill, a life skill. I feel like I've been taught something now that I can take with me and use in a variety of situations and scenarios. And that's, genuine. I feel like it's not some kind of thing that you have to keep paying for, like with these CDs where you're constantly having to spend money on this stuff. You are being taught a skill that stays with you for life. I think the techniques I've been taught through Mark were a lot more profound and a lot more effective than anything I'd discovered before. They were certainly, I've been in sort of a deeper sort of meditative state through the techniques that Mark showed me. I was able to enter a stillness that I've never experienced before. So the benefits have been far-reaching actually. My sort of personal life day to day has calmed down a lot since attending just a couple of classes, and it's something that I actually really enjoy and look forward to attending as well. I think there's an element of a social aspect that you kind of meet one or two like-minded people who are also on a similar journey that are maybe looking for relaxation that you just don't get from sat behind your PC downloading a kind of tape. The way Mark teaches his class is a very open style. He asks a few questions about, to kind of gauge where, he asked me some questions where I was and what I knew, what I didn't know, to gain a genuine understanding of what was the appropriate action for me. And I do feel that, and I've brought friends along to the class, that everybody's experience is slightly different and it's tailored towards their needs, which I think is important because everybody's going to come with different experience and different expectations. And I felt like, for the money I paid, I pretty much had a tailored class for an hour, which was unbelievable value. From my own experience in meditation, in the absence of a teacher, a book is okay. You can get some basic things. But if you have access to somebody who's got the experience and the skills, I think you learn a heck of a lot more, I certainly did, in a much shorter period of time. And one thing I noticed actually after the last class is that despite the amount of books that I've read and the kind of tapes I've listened to online, within an hour I've kind of learned a lot more from Mark, within just such a short period of time. From what I've experienced so far in Mark's meditation classes, I think everybody would benefit from this, actually from school children right up to retired people, because I think that it's a kind of skill that we don't just get taught in everyday life, but it's something that's impacted my life so dramatically. I think it would be beneficial for everybody. I think in particular people who have maybe a slightly stressful lifestyle, maybe people who don't unwind as much as they could, perhaps like working parents or people in business or people who work full-time. I think actually the demands of working full-time, we sometimes underestimate that, but it's become apparent to me through this meditation that that's quite stressful on the mind. The mind's kind of very active a lot of the time, and we rarely switch off. And I think for that hour, it's your time to kind of wind down, I've noticed through my life so far that I'm able to make judgments in business and in personal situations with so much more clarity and sort of calmness, really. Instead of rushing into decisions and maybe not choosing the best outcome, I've kind of, through the meditation classes, I've had an ability to kind of sit back and think about consequences before I've made the decisions. This is something that just wasn't present before I started meditation. I think meditation, like anything, there's probably the odd person out there that's maybe teaching it for personal gain, or they want you to get you hooked on the classes, or they don't really pass on many skills that you can keep for your own. I can only comment on Mark's class because that's the only one that I've been to, but I can say that I would continue going for the foreseeable future because I'm not being sold anything. There's no kind of hidden agenda. It's just a genuine, practical, real world, proven techniques to kind of meditate. I mean, initially, I was concerned that a class like this probably wouldn't be for somebody like me because I don't really go to things like this. I was concerned it might be a cult, but it turned out to be completely the opposite to that. It's a really friendly environment, very practical advice, very usable day to day. So I've learned a usable technique that I now practice daily, which I find gets easier and more enjoyable the more I practice it. Number two, an increase in knowledge of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I feel like every session that I attend, I pick up extra sort of tips that I can use and sort of bits of advice that I can use just to increase my awareness of what I'm doing. Sharing in that energy field, I do feel that when I come to the meditation class in that group scenario, I benefit a lot from Mark's energy, and I feel a very profound stillness that I can kind of reflect on in my own time away from that and try, and at least I've got kind of a benchmark to what kind of stillness you can get to.